Who's the idiot that said that Kirill Kaprizov wasn't playing well this year? Well, that was me. Dual goals for Kirill and Zucchi. Peanut butter jelly. I can assure you the Detroit Red Wings will not be ordering peanut butter and jelly sandwiches anytime soon. How about that for an OT win for the Minnesota Wild? Detroit's a good team. Very good team. The Wild got to extract a little revenge on Cam Talbot, and Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Zuccarello took care of the game. Boy, that Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Hartman line, that's a nice turn back the clock option for the Minnesota Wild. Main point, we won. Quinn Hughes had 3 more assists, and the Wild starting to look like themselves again with a big return. We got a lot to discuss. You know what time it is.
You are Locked On Wild Postcast, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Minnesota Wild dispatched the Detroit Red Wings 4-3 in overtime at Grand Casino Arena. The Wild rallied from 3 different 1-goal deficits. They trailed 1-0, 2-1, 3-2. They rallied each time. They took their first lead of the contest and called game as Kirill Kaprizov scored his 26th and 27th goals of the season. Matt Zuccarello got 2 goals himself. Quinn Hughes had 3 assists in the game. And just a fun one here. A good, hard battle between 2 very solid playoff teams. As much as we have talked about the Minnesota Wild being solidified in their playoff positioning, Detroit is basically in at this point too. So this was just a fun battle between 2 playoff teams. You look at Detroit on the other side. They've got Dylan Larkin. They've got Lucas Raymond. They've got plenty of talent on that roster. It's a fun team to watch. And it was a fun battle between the 2 that the Wild end up coming out on top. And ESPN actually excited to call a Minnesota Wild game, although the game-winning highlight, the game-winning call of Kirill Kaprizov, give me LaPanta or Joe O'Donnell every day of the week over John Buccigross, because that was something else. But the main point, we want to see this Minnesota Wild team with a playoff spot basically locked up. We want to see this Minnesota Wild team hold their own against other teams that are in playoff contention. This is a game that exactly qualifies for that metric. And the Minnesota Wilds, they passed the smell test. They did a good job of going toe-to-toe with a very tough Detroit team, and they came out on top. And for the Wilds, they got a couple of bodies back. They got Marcus Johansson back. They got Joel Eriksson Ek back. Joel Eriksson Ek went Happy Gilmore on the bit and was just headhunting out there. So it was good to see. Joel Eriksson Ek was amped. He was ready and rearing to go to get out on the ice. He did his thing. Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Zuccarello did their thing. Kirill had a little bit of angry to him in this one, and I tell you what, I know for the amount of players that are out of the lineup right now, Kaprizov, Hartman, Zuccarello, that combination's looking pretty good. And if you can get that and the second line, if you can get the 2 lines consistently going, you're rocking the boat. That's the recipe. That's the recipe right there. Now, I will tell all of you, you guys all get to hear it here Recorded an episode during the show today, or during the game today. I did a nice little deep dive into some back end defense options that I think could be had for cheap, because I'm gonna lay it out there right now. I like Damon Hunt, and I know we want David Juracek to get an opportunity to work into being a defenseman with a consistent opening. I do not want to go into the playoffs with that as my third pair. So I looked at some options for the back end. So that's coming up for you first thing in the morning, after we digest this game a little bit. Let's take a look at the particulars, because something that was just pointed out in the comments I want to address. 39 shots on goal for the Minnesota Wild here tonight. As far as offensive output went, it was a little bit of a tough defensive battle between the two teams. Not a ton in the way of expected goals. The Wild generated 2.75 expected goals tonight, and they were able to get 4 past Cam Talbot. They had 50 unblocked shot attempts, 13 medium danger, 1 high danger. So again, you want to try to get those numbers. You want to try to get those high danger numbers a lot higher, but I know it's a bigger back end for the Red Wings. So sometimes you can't get to the net, but you got to take advantage, and the Wild certainly did tonight. As far as Detroit goes, 2.61 expected goals. So both teams pretty much even. The Wild held the Detroit Red Wings to 1 high danger shot attempt in this game. So they did a good job of keeping Detroit from getting right out in front of the net. As far as some of the other numbers, the Wild did get another power play goal tonight, courtesy of Kirill Kaprizov. The worst home penalty kill in the league got bit again, as the Red Wings did get 1 power play goal, but hits and blocks, pretty solid all around. The only number that really, and it's not a typo, I checked it twice, is the faceoffs. 40-20. That's a little dicey. And the numbers as far as the faceoffs go, Joel Eriksson Ek was only 3 out of 17. I'm not gonna look too heavily into that, because it's his first game back after missing quite a bit of time. You're trying to get your timing down. You're trying to get back in all sorts of rhythm. So I'm not going to look too critically at that type of a face-off night. Ryan Hartman was 9 out of 22. So it was better, but it was just 40%. Nico Sturm was in positive territory at 4 out of 7. Danila Yurov was 3 out of 9. Who won all the faceoffs for Detroit? Dylan Larkin, 17 out of 26, and Andrew Kopp was 13 out of 20. Yeah, that'll do it. But again, I think this is why we have been so adamant that the Wild need to get another center at the top of the lineup, is so that you can go toe-to-toe against these teams, and you don't get put in a blender, so to speak. You don't want to have that be the thing that pulls you down as the game wears on. But other than that, I mean, Filip Gustavsson, some solid saves throughout the course of the night. I know we are so used to seeing games won 2-1, 3-2, and I think part of the reason that the games are ending up more like 4-3 as opposed to 3-2 or 2-1 is I think the pace is just quickened. The Wild are playing at a faster pace. They're not having to slow games down and limit opportunities because they have the offense to be able to match now. So you are, and I know Brock Faber and Quinn Hughes are playing what is called high event hockey, which means there are a lot of chances that they are generating. There are a lot of chances that are being generated against them. And so I think that's what it really comes down to is just the pace is quickened. But you can do that now because you have the offense to be able to push. Whereas before, the Wild played at a slower pace because they didn't have the offense to be able to score. If this is true, that might be my favorite stat of the night. If that is true, that the Wild Detroit first loss first. Let's just take a peek at that here, because I know Detroit they're one of the best teams in the league as far as holding leads is concerned. Let's just see what the number is here. Detroit's record overall when they scored first, 24-1. When they had a lead after 2 periods, they were 21-1-1. I don't know if this has tonight's game factored in, but first overtime loss on their entire season when they score first. That's impressive. Yeah, it wasn't the Hughes and Faber pairing wasn't on the ice for those goals against. My point just was that this team playing faster. You know, I noticed some of the Corsi numbers for the Wild over the last few games, and it seems like they're always on the wrong end of the Corsi stuff. But if you have a lead, then you expect that the opponent is going to get more shots on goal against you. And you know, if you're playing at a higher pace, that just means there are going to be more shots by both sides. So it's just kind of we're transitioning from this low event, slow defensive team to now more of a modern NHL, which is great. That Eurocheck shift was that was a circus act, wasn't it? That was what we call living on the edge. That's what Aerosmith calls living on the edge. That was something else. Interesting note here. I'm just looking at the situational numbers for Detroit. The third period is the period to get the Red Wings. They have been outscored by 10 goals in the third period this season. 60-50. They have outscored their opponents massively in the second period, 66-53. So if you're going to get Detroit, you got to get them in the third. And what did the Minnesota Wild do? Well, they scored twice in the third period. You have got to, and this is something that is going to become paramount in the postseason, is when a team has anything that can be labeled as a weakness, you have to beat it to death. So, team gives up a lot of goals in the third period. Okay. Go punch them in the mouth a bunch of times. And the Wild did that tonight. As far as standout performances go, and then we'll take a quick break and kind of look ahead to the weekend because it is Hockey Day Minnesota, even though it's 9,000 degrees below zero in the state. it's going to be 40 below tomorrow night. That can't even be a real number. And why, can I just ask a weather related question here in the state of Minnesota? Why do we have to get the crazy below zero temperatures and the wind? Why does it have to be 40 below and 50 mile an hour winds? Can we not just do one or the other? I don't know. Standout performances tonight, of course, Kirill Kaprizov, who had a 3-goal game or a 3-point night, 2-goal game, 3-point night. He has 8 3-point games on the season, which leads the Minnesota Wild. Quinn Hughes has 4 in 20 games for the Minnesota Wild. So those are so Kaprizov was great. Zuccarello was fantastic. Quinn Hughes was electric. Brock Faber just continued to do Brock Faber things. Damon Hunt had a 3-block night, as did Jake Middleton. Ryan Hartman had an assist. He was a +3. He had 5 block shots. And again, he was amongst the highest volume. He had the better night in the faceoff circle. Nobody really had a good night in the circle, but he at least took a bunch of the grimy draws. And no, I can't do anything like that, because knowing my luck, I would fall, I would hit my head, and then I would die of hypothermia. So I can't do anything like that. It is legitimately, it's like 44 below, where I'm at. So maybe more in the summer. Yeah, I thought it was a nice bounce back night for Midzi. I think he's starting to put better tape out there with Jared Spurgeon as his D partner. So I think that's good. I don't think third pairing is a good spot for him with Bogosian. So something for the Wild to consider. And I talked about that a little bit in the episode that'll drop first thing in the morning. But let's not forget Filip Gustavsson. I thought he had a really solid night against this offense. Just a lot of solid performances for the Minnesota Wild here in this one. And of course, let's not forget the Trenyan. I think that dude just finally turned a corner this season. Once he finally stopped worrying too much about the offensive production and just let it come. Now he is just throwing his weight all over the place. I was glad to be wrong about that. And Trenyan is going to finish the season with 400 hits, which is a lot. That is a ton. And I think Kirill definitely listened, and he said, I just found this quote. He definitely listened. Listen to this. Russo asked Kirill about the relief he showed on the first goal tonight. Kirill said, well, you tell me I don't score goals. I scored tonight. Folks, Kirill Kaprizov, certified Locked On Wild listener. He heard, he listened, and he delivered. Did he ever deliver? Let's sneak in a break. When we come back, I want to look ahead to the weekend, and I also want to talk about the fact that the Minnesota Wild have pulled ahead of the Dallas Stars. We'll talk about all of that as we continue today's episode of Locked On Wild. Wild win by a score of 4-3 in OT. More on tonight's postcast coming right up after this. Tonight's postcast is brought to you by Game Time. There is nothing like being near the ice during hockey season. The speed, the hits, the atmosphere, it is completely unmatched. Now, watching at home is great, but being in the building is a completely different experience. The only thing that used to get in the way was actually getting tickets. Long queues, endless screens, and prices changing at checkout. That's why the Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing NHL tickets and experiences in just a few taps. Priority fees are included, so you know your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. And zone deals are amazingly clutch. You choose the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save even more. So take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off right now at Game Time. Tonight's postcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like the most. The boost gives you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet on something new. You make your picks, then apply your profit boosts to go even bigger with payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL game day. The Minnesota Wild pick up a big win against the Detroit Red Wings, 4-3 in OT. And for the Wilds, they are now 14-9, or as I like to say, 29-23. The Wilds are 14-12 at home, 15-11 on the road, and they have 67 points, which is 2 better than the Dallas Stars, who, ladies and gentlemen, the Dallas Stars lost to the Columbus Blue Jackets tonight. Folks, let's give it up. Let's give it up for the Columbus Blue Jackets, who shut out the Dallas Stars tonight by a score of 1-0. Something called Jet Greaves. Is that a goalie? Is it a goalie for the Blue Jackets? Rick Bowness, current coach for the Blue Jackets. Dean Evason's best friend. 1-0 win over the Dallas Stars. Jet Greaves had 28 saves. And for the Stars, they continue to scuffle, to shuffle lower in the standings. They are 3-7 in their last 10. And this is going to be a battle that goes all the way to the end of the season. So, yes, it's great that we have the lead right now, but it's not going to there's going to be ebbs and flows. I am working on trying to get a little roundtable put together with probably Locked On Avalanche and Locked On Stars for the 3 teams that are mostly pacing the NHL, although the Wilds now are tied in points with Carolina and with Detroit. So the lead that the Wild had as far as third in the NHL in points is gone. But hey, it's a stretch. You know, It's a stretch that coincides with stretches that Dallas and Colorado are also having. The Colorado Avalanche lost in their most recent game. Did they play tonight too? I think they must have played last night. Oh, and they lost to Anaheim. They lost 2-1. So, there are always stretches in which the season kind of there are always stretches in which the season doesn't go the way that you hoped it would. This is a great question by Britt that I'll kind of start the questions portion of the show with. Who would you want to play in the first round? The Predators, the Mammoth, or Chicago? Well, I think of those three, I would have to say Chicago. I don't know. For whatever reason, the Predators have not been a good matchup for the Wild. Now, I don't believe the Wild have played the Predators since they acquired Quinn Hughes. Or maybe they did. Let's see, December 14th. No, they have not. Yeah, they lost 3-2 in overtime to the Predators. That was the sixth game of the Quinn Hughes era. Nashville has not been a great matchup for the Wild. And the Mammoth have not been a great matchup for the Wild, although we have not yet really dug into the season series against Utah. Only in October, when the Wild were losing to everybody. The next matchup coming up with the Mammoth is February 27th, after the Olympic break. The Wild go at Colorado, at Utah, back-to-back after the Olympic break is done. Why? Why do you have to start the post-Olympic break with the Avs on the road? Well, at least they'll be rested. At least the Wild will be rested by that point. And, I mean, honestly, I think having the break is going to be good for the squad. Just to give everybody a chance to separate, detach, so you can come back in at the end of February and really lock in for a big push in the month of March. The month of March is going to be, that's moving season as far as the standings are concerned. And it's not necessarily for the Wild, it's for everybody else. That is moving season for all the teams that are trying to get into playoff contention. So the Wild are going to have to be on their guard, especially in the month of March, because there'll be teams coming. What is up with all of the Artemi Panarin gossip? Great question. So basically, from how I understand it, and from what I've seen reported by Michael Russo, Panarin has been linked to the Wild for the last couple of seasons. So they're adding to that. They're just tacking that on this year. The Wild were linked to Artemi Panarin last year. They were linked to him the year before that. And now that he is in the final year of his deal, and the Rangers are like, we're backing off. Or I guess the better way to put what the Rangers are doing is, well, we're not going to sell, but we're not going to go for the playoffs. So we're just going to kind of do what we have been doing, except we might trade a few players. Panarin is one that makes a lot of sense to trade. I think his preference is to stay in New York, but New York's preference may not be for him to stay. The Stars are linked. The Avalanche have been linked. The Wild, I feel like, should get involved, because if Colorado gets a player like Artemi Panarin, you may as well hand them the Stanley Cup with how good they've been this year. Although we have seen trades completely torpedo teams before. So you never know. But the Wild are going to be linked to every big player this offseason, because they now have finally put themselves on the dance floor. The Quinn Hughes move. Now the Wild are like, hey, we're in the conversation too. So there are going to be a lot of players that get linked. The Athletic put out their trade tracker. Artemi Panarin is at the top of the list. Nazem Kadri. I'm just going to go through the forwards that I'm sure will be. See, this is a good follow up. Would the Wild have enough money to re-up a player like Artemi Panarin? Not at his current asking price. I think he wants 13 or 14, maybe at the low end, for his next deal. The Wild can't afford that. They can't afford that if they want to keep Quinn Hughes. You've got to also be thinking about what Matt Boldy's next deal is going to look like. I know I'm crazy for saying this right now, but as good as Matt Boldy has been, his next contract is not going to be cheap. So I would be starting to think about that as well. It's never too early to start thinking about those types of things. And you're going to re-sign him. With as good as he's been this year, you're not going to be like, you're not going to say, well, you really can't. Yeah, BS. This is where the Brodin and Spurgeon contracts come in handy. Now that we know that Brodin had surgery and that, as John Hines put it, they're hoping that he is back well before the end of the season. I move Brodin in the offseason, honestly. Like, you can bring somebody in if you feel like you need help defensively, but I'd move out from under the Brodin contract, because, well, let's just look at what's going to be out there for free agents as far as defensemen go. Because I feel like you could get somebody that is healthier for about that same amount of money that you could put into the mix. So defensemen, that will be, okay, we got to go to 26. Okay, so right off the bat, Cale Makar, he's not going to be available. I mean, there are a lot of mid to upper 30s guys that are on the list. I mean, honestly, like a guy that I talked about in tomorrow's episode, Mario Ferraro, is making 3.25. Guys like that, I mean, are available. There are names on the free agent list that you could get to plug Brodin's role that may not be as good as Brodin, but they'll be healthier, if that makes sense. I think at this point there is certainly talent and availability is here with Brodin, and I think there's somebody you could get that was like this. Is kind of that's my general point on the defensive side. And for Spurgeon, I mean, he may hang it up. I mean, I know he's playing well this year, but he's getting into his mid-30s now. And with all the injuries that he has dealt with throughout the course of his career, he may not want to sign another contract. You never know. He may treat this as his final contract and say, I'm out. I'm done. And then you build around Faber and Hughes and you fill in behind them. So we did get good news on Matt Boldy today. He started skating with Andy Ness. Now he had to miss today's game because of the IR designation. So at the earliest he could come back for Saturday's game. I don't know if that's on the table yet. We'll find out before Saturday and let you know. But the next opponent for the Wild is the Florida Panthers. Oh, it's an 8 o'clock start again. At least it's on a Saturday. The Florida Panthers come into town for Hockey Day Minnesota. And what I can tell you about the Florida Panthers right now is they are beaten to death because of the last two Stanley Cup runs. They have injuries all over the place. They have players that are, I mean, the injury report for the Panthers is just unbelievably lengthy. Seth Jones put on injured reserve on Monday. Jonah Gadjevich not expected to return till after the Olympic break. Brad Marchand was placed on injured reserve on the 17th. So those are the players that are injured as of right now. I mean, you've got Alexander Barkov, who I believe is still out as well. But they still have Matthew Tkachuk. They still have Sam Reinhart. They still have Sam Bennett. They still have Carter Verhaeghe. Need I go on? But yeah, as of right now, looking at Puckpedia, Alexander Barkov on long-term injured reserve, Brad Marchand on injured reserve, Tomas Nozick on long-term injured reserve, Jonah Gadjevich on injured reserve, Seth Jones on long-term injured reserve, Dmitry Kulikov on long-term injured reserve. This Florida team is beaten to hell. But they're still very, very gritty, very stingy, very it's going to be a very grimy type of a game against the Panthers on Hockey Day Minnesota, which is going to be a lot of fun, but it's going to be a very tough game. It's going to be a very physical game. The Panthers, and I know this is when they go up against the Lightning, but they have, in the last 2 years, they have a couple of games in which they have 100+ penalty minutes. So it's going to be a fight. But I think it's a fight we'll talk more about tomorrow. Again, I want to just leave you with one thing. The Wild won tonight, 4-3 in OT. Listen to this, courtesy of Minnesota Wild PR, for Quinn Hughes. Hughes, 22 assists with the Minnesota Wild, are second most by a defenseman through his first 20 games with a franchise in NHL history, behind Paul Coffey with 24 with Pittsburgh. Hughes is now the second player in NHL history with 4 3-assist games through his first 20 games with the franchise. The other was Dan Doust with 4 games with Toronto. Filip Gustavsson is 168-25 now in his career. Since joining the Wild, he is 90-55-22 with a 2.58 goals against average and a .913 save percentage. Quinn Hughes is now tied for first among NHL defensemen and tied for 6th among all skaters with 43 assists. Since he debuted with the Wild, he's tied for first in the NHL with 22 assists and second amongst NHL defensemen, and tied for 11th amongst all skaters with 24 points in that span. Quinn Hughes makes all the difference. Win Hughes makes all the difference. And the Minnesota Wild, a solid win against the Detroit Red Wings here tonight. Folks, that's going to do it for tonight's postcast. I'm going to go turn my fireplace on because it is abysmally cold. And the Wild thankfully warmed up here tonight. Make sure to hit that like button before you head out for the night so you don't miss out on and we, of course, will have you covered throughout the rest of the week as well. And we got an episode coming up for you first thing in the morning also. So we'll see you for tomorrow's episode. Wild win. Once again, 4-3 team. Thanks for tuning into tonight's postcast right here on Locked On Wild, your team every day.